materials are you going to need? Well, you're going to need an orange yarn of your choice. I am using Pumpkin by Red Heart Super Saver. It is a worsted weight. And a green of your choice, or a brown if you prefer a brown stem. I am just using a scrap green. I know this is a big twist, but I do not recall the exact colorway. But if you go on Joann's site, I'm sure you could find it, because Big Twist is their store brand. Then you're also going to need a hook. I'm using a 3.5mm hook, a stitch marker, and some scissors. You're also going to need something to stuff with, so you can either stuff with polyfill or you could use yarn scraps. I probably will use yarn scraps because it's such a small little project. It's perfect for just sticking a couple yarn scraps in there. So if you do a lot of amigurumi, you may have a lot of these bad boys, and this would be a perfect time to use them up. All right, let's begin. So we're going to start out with making a magic circle. I have a tutorial if you would like to have a slowed down version where I walk you through it more, but I will show you how to do it here as well. But if you need extra help, that tutorial will be linked in the description below this video. So you're going to yarn over your 2 fingers here with your tail of yarn. So just stick it like this. Then you're going to wrap around these 2 fingers and you're going to cross over the other strand. And then on top here, you're going to go under the first loop. Make sure that's focused for you guys. You're going to go under the first loop, grab the second one, pull through, and rotate. And that's going to create a loop on your hook. Then you're going to yarn over with your working yarn, which is the yarn attached to the skein still, or ball or cake or whatever. And then you're going to pull it through. And that is how you do your magic circle. And you're not going to count that as anything. That doesn't count as a stitch. But that is how you form your magic circle, and it is all locked into place nicely. So next we're going to do 6 single crochets in our magic circle. So to work in a magic circle, you work over both the yarn tail and the circle. So to begin making our single crochets into our magic circle, we first start by inserting our hook and pulling up a loop from this working yarn that's attached to the skein still, and then yarning over and pulling through both. And that is how you do a single crochet. Notice I'm working over both the tail and the circle. So now you can just continue to do that until you have 6 single crochets. That's 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then once you have 6 single crochets, you can go ahead and pull your circle closed, making sure that you pull gently. We don't want to tighten it too much yet. We're just going to get it down to a small opening in the center. And then we're going to insert our hook under this first stitch, this first single crochet that we had done. And we're going to do an increase. And this whole round is going to be increases. So we're going to do 6 increases. Now an increase is 2 single crochets into the same stitch. So you may have noticed I just put 1 and 2 single crochets into that first stitch. You can go ahead and place a stitch marker on under your first stitch if you would like to. That will let you know when you get back around to that stitch marker that you have completed your round. Now that we've went ahead and made our first stitches of the round, we can go ahead and give a more solid tug on our magic circle tail so that there isn't a hole. Just like that. And then we're going to do 2 single crochets into the next stitch. And then 2 single crochets into the next stitch. And we're just going to repeat that in each of the 6 stitches, and then we will have 12 stitches at the end of the round because we're increasing in each one. And now that we've made it back around to our stitch marker, we have 12 stitches. We can go ahead and remove the stitch marker and place a single crochet into that first stitch. This round is going to be a single crochet and then an increase, and we're going to repeat that all the way around. So I just did a single crochet into my first stitch, which I have a marker in. So into my second stitch, I'm going to do an increase. So I'm going to put 2 single crochets into the same stitch. And now I will repeat that, and that is my pattern for this round. So 1 single crochet and an increase. 1 single crochet and an increase. Into my next stitch, I'm going to place a single crochet and an increase. So just go ahead and repeat that pattern until you get back to your stitch marker, and you should have 18 stitches at the end of this round. So you are always more than welcome to stop and count those if you want to make sure that you did it right. But otherwise, when you get back to your stitch marker, you have completed that round. And that's round 3. So round 4, we're going to go ahead and remove our stitch marker, and we are just going to single crochet around. Let's see. We are going to single crochet around for 3 rounds. So you can just go ahead and replace your stitch marker after you place that first single crochet, and you can single crochet your way all the way around and back to your stitch marker. You will have 18 stitches at the end of each round because we aren't increasing or decreasing. So just go ahead and work your way back to that stitch marker and do that 3 times in total. And then I will meet you back and we will continue working on our little pumpkin. So you want your magic circle tail to be on the inside of your ball. If you need to give that any more tugs, just to make sure that your hole is cinched up all the way, feel free to give that a nice solid tug and have that closed all the way, and then go ahead and just stuff the tail right inside, and it can act as a little bit of stuffing. But yeah, you want that on the inside, and this is the outside of your stitches. And then we can go ahead and move on. So for round 7, we're going to go ahead and take our stitch marker out, and we are going to single crochet into that first stitch, and then we are going to do an invisible decrease into the second and third stitch. So first, let's go ahead and place our stitch marker back in here so that we know where the beginning of our round is, and then I will show you how to do an invisible decrease. So to do an invisible decrease, you are going to get just the front loop only of this first stitch. Now, if you see, there are 2 loops, and I'm only grabbing the front loop. So to show you on this stitch, this is the whole stitch that you normally work under, and we're only grabbing this front loop of the stitch. Okay? So go ahead and grab the second front loop from the next stitch, and now you're going to have 3 loops on your hook. You're going to have your normal loop, and you're going to have the front loop of the next 2 stitches. Then you're going to yarn over, and you're going to pull through both. And then you'll yarn over again, and you'll pull through both again. And that's how you do an invisible decrease. That's going to be our repeat for the round, so we're going to go ahead and do it again. A single crochet, and then an invisible decrease. So to show you again, grab the front loop, grab the second front loop from the next stitch, yarn over, and pull through both. And then yarn over again, and pull through both again. And we are just going to continue like that for this entire round. So single crochet, invisible decrease. Single crochet, invisible decrease. Once you've reached your stitch marker again at the end of your single crochet decrease round, we're going to go ahead and stuff our little pumpkin. So you can go ahead and grab your polyfill or your yarn scraps or whatever it is that you're choosing to use, and you can go ahead and begin to stuff your little pumpkin. If you would like to, you can remove your stitch marker, because you know you're going to go into that first stitch right after where you're at, and that'll be your first stitch. If it's in the way, if your hook is in the way, you can remove that as well. And the way to do that is by just pulling up on your hook to give yourself a little bit of an elongated loop, and then it won't come out while you're busy stuffing your pumpkin. So go ahead and stuff that until you're happy with it. We're going to do all decreases next round, just straight up decreasing in every stitch. And there will be a tiny hole that you can top off your stuffing right before we close it if you would like to, but for the most part you want to have it fully stuffed and shaped out and everything till you're happy with it. And I would stuff it tightly. That's how I like to stuff my projects, so that is my advice to you as well. It's going to be more sturdy and shapeable, and I feel like they just look nicer, so that is my preference, but you can of course stuff to the desired amount. And I think after these couple pieces of yarn I will be happy with my stuffing. Alright, so once you're happy with your stuffing, go ahead and replace your hook if you took it out back into this first stitch and pull so that your loop is back to being your normal tightness, and go ahead and remove your stitch marker. Now we're just going to decrease in each stitch around, so it's going to be 6 decreases because we currently have 12 stitches. Now to decrease, just once more to remind you, invisible decreasing, so we're going to grab the front loop only and the front loop only of the second stitch, yarn over with the yarn attached to our ball, and then pull through both of those, and then yarn over and pull through both of those. And that is a decrease. You can go ahead and put your stitch marker back in, or you can just keep count if you would like to, since there are only 6 decreases. It is up to you. But we are going to go ahead and do our remaining 5 decreases until we get back to our stitch marker. And then we will go ahead and close this bad boy up. So we are almost done with the body of our pumpkin. So just invisible decrease your way around 6 times in total until you reach your stitch marker. And then if you would like to add any more stuffing, you can go ahead and add it. Like I said, it is a very small hole, but if you would like to top it off, you can go ahead and put a little bit more in there. If you're using polyfill, then you would probably have the little wooden stick that comes with the polyfill. And that works really well when you're stuffing it through the very tiny hole at the top. So if you would like to add more stuffing at that point, I would recommend possibly using your little polyfill stick. And there is our last decrease. So you can go ahead and remove your stitch marker now, and it's going to look like this. So what we're going to do is we're going to pull up on our hook a little bit, and then we can cut this. Leave yourself a little bit of a tail to sew in with. Doesn't take a whole lot. And then go ahead and pull up on your loop just like put your finger in here or whatever, pull up on it so that you can take that out, and then that will be nice and secure. And then grab your darning needle. So with your darning needle, go ahead and put this through, and we are going to close up our pumpkin. So there are 6 stitches, and so we're going to go through 6 stitches. We're going to go through the front loop onlys of these stitches. So you'll notice that there are 2, just like normal, there are 2 stitches, or there are 2 loops. So go through the front loop only, and you're going to do that 6 times. Don't pull too tight, just pull a little bit as you go. 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Once you have your 6 stitches all threaded through the first loop, we're going to magically close this. So all you have to do is gently pull. And boom, it just cinches it right shut for you. So after you cinch that up, you can just weave this back and forth a little bit. It'll secure it in nicely for you and hide your tail at the same time. I'm not sticking it back in the same hole. I'm just pushing that yarn that I stuffed with back through. So if your polyfill or your yarn or whatever you stuffed with does peek through along with your yarn as you're pulling it in and out, that's totally fine. You can either just stick it back in with your finger or your darning needle, or you can actually use tweezers if you really want to get fancy, and you can tweeze off any polyfill that is sticking out. So not a big deal at all. Once you've woven in and out as many times as you feel comfortable with, and you have secured your thread nicely, or your yarn nicely, you can go ahead and pop your needle out through the side somewhere and just give one last little pull through. And then you can trim your yarn. And you can trim it right up to the side of your pumpkin, and then to hide the little tail that is still sticking out a little bit, just give it a squeeze, give it a little massage, and it will pop that tail right back in, and you will not have any proof of it being there ever. All right, so now we are going to shape our pumpkin body. Okay, so now that you have finished crocheting your main body, we are going to go ahead and divide up our ball to make it into a pumpkin shape. So for the purposes of the tutorial, I'm going to show you how to divide it into 5 sections, but you can divide it into as many sections as you would like to, and it gives a little bit of a different look to your pumpkin. Just like in real life, pumpkins aren't all shaped the same way. So if you're making a few of these, maybe you'll want to divide them into different amounts to give a little bit of variety, or if you have like a certain look that you're wanting to go for, feel free to divide them up as many times as you'd like. In this picture, I have one that I divided into 5, and then one I divided into 9. So you can really do it however you'd like to. So what you're going to do is you're going to grab your orange yarn, and you're going to cut a nice long length. So you have this nice long length of yarn, and then go ahead and thread it onto your darning needle. And once you've threaded it onto your darning needle, we're just going to go right up through the center of our pumpkin and out the center of the top. So the easiest way to go through the center of our pumpkin is actually to start on the side with the magic circle, because you can very clearly see where exactly the middle of your ball is. So go ahead and push your needle through the center and up and out through the back at the center. This will be a little bit easier to do if you used polyfill than if you used yarn scraps, but just wiggle it around a little bit until you work your way around those yarn scraps and find your way out the middle. And you can kind of clearly or very easily see where the middle is on the back too. So pretty easy to keep yourself centered. Then we're just going to go ahead and pull through, and you're going to pull through almost all of the yarn that you cut. Leave yourself a little bit of a tail for one, just so that you don't accidentally pull it out at any point. But for two, we're going to use this to tie a knot when we're done. So leave yourself a length long enough to tie a knot with. Now we're just going to go and we're going to divide this into 5 parts. So to start dividing it into 5 parts, since we came out on this side, we are going to go through back into this other side and pop back out the middle of the top, or the bottom in this case. And that will divide one section for us. So now you're just going to pull your yarn all the way through, and you notice that we have a section starting to form. Give it a nice tight pull. And that's going to start to divide your pumpkin into parts. Now we're just going to repeat that until we have 5 divided sections of our pumpkin. So go ahead and repeat the same thing. Now you're going to go to the other side and you're going to insert your hook, or your needle, sorry, and pop back out the middle. And before pulling super tight, be mindful of where you have your division. You want to divide it into 5 equal parts. So I'm going to go ahead and put it exactly across from my other one. But then just a little bit skewed to the side. Because if I divided it into halves, I wouldn't be able to continue to keep it even, considering that I'm dividing it into 5. Then once you have your placement where you would like it, go ahead and pull it nice and tight. Make sure you're pulling these tight as you go, because you won't be able to get them tightened after you get further. So you need to tighten them after each section. All right, and now we're just going to keep repeating. So go ahead and divide this up into 5 sections, or the amount of sections that you would like for your pumpkin. Okay, and here is what it should look like when you have 5 divided sections. So here is the bottom, and here is the top of our pumpkin. So now that we have 5 divided sections, we just need to secure our yarn, and then we're going to make a little stem for our pumpkin. So this is completely up to personal preference, but I would like to tie my knot at the bottom. So what I'm going to do is thread this little short tail that I left. And then I'm going to make sure that I don't go in the exact same spot that I came out of, because I don't want to undo any of my work. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go over a little bit. So I see I came out right here. I'm going to go over a little bit, like right here. And just find a spot that works for you. See how I'm not going into the exact same spot? You don't have to do this if you would like to just tie your knot on the top, but I would like to tie mine on the bottom. So I'm going to push it through. And same as before, this will be a little bit easier if you used polyfill to get it through, but oops. And once you have that pulled through, then you can go ahead and just make a knot. So I'm just going to make a little knot, probably not even necessary since this is very secure. I'm going to double knot it. And then depending on what you're doing with your little pumpkin, if it's on the bottom, you could just trim your tails so that you don't see them anymore really. Or if you are planning on doing something where you're going to see the bottom, we can go ahead and we can weave these in. So I'm actually just going to put both of them on my hook at the, or on my needle at the same time. And you don't have to put it on at the same time. You can do them separately. I was just attempting to kill two birds with one stone, as they say, and do both tails at the same time. Then I'm just going to weave my tail. Find a spot that's good. Don't go right into the middle, though. And then just go through. Pull that through. And then go ahead and trim your yarn tail. You can trim right up to it, same as before, and then just give it some little squeezes, and you won't even see your little tail spot that it came out of because it'll just sink in. And boom, we have shaped our gorgeous little pumpkin. Is that not super satisfying? So small and so cute. So now we just want to make a little stem. So go ahead and grab some green yarn and your hook, and let's make a stem. So here is another part where you can customize it to how you want. You can make your stem as short or as tall as you would like. Make a slip knot. Leave yourself a little bit of a tail, but make a slip knot and put that on your hook. And then we're going to go ahead and make a chain. So this is customizable based on the length that you want it to be. If you want to have this hanging from the stem, you could make the stem longer or something. For the purposes of the tutorial, I'm going to make a medium height one, and I'm going to go ahead and chain 5. So you're going to want to chain one more than the length that you want for your stem, because you're going to skip that first chain from your hook to turn. So go ahead and chain however many you would like, and then skip the first chain from your hook and work single crochets back down your chain until you get back to where you started. And there's 5. So go ahead and chain whatever length you would like yours to be. Keep in mind it will be one chain shorter than it looks like. So then we're going to go ahead and we're going to skip the first chain, and we're going to go into the second and place a single crochet. Then we're going to go into the third and we're going to do a half double crochet. So if you don't know what a half double crochet is, you yarn over your hook. This is the yarn that's attached to the skein. You're going to yarn over and you're going to go into the next stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through all 3. There we go. I got caught on my loop. And then we're just going to yarn over, and we're going to do in the next stitch a let's do another half double crochet. So you're going to yarn over, go through that next stitch, yarn over again, pull through all 3, and this is going to be your half double crochet. Then in our final stitch, we're going to do a double crochet. So yarn over your hook, go through that last loop, that last stitch. You're going to yarn over your hook again and pull up a loop, yarn over, and then this time you're only going to pull through the first 2. Then you're going to yarn over again and then pull through those other 2 loops. And you should have something that looks a little bit like this, depending on the length that you did. The longer that you're doing it, basically you're just going to want to do single crochets until you get to the point where you want to start thickening it. Then you're going to want to do half double crochets, and then you're going to want to do double crochets when you get to the base. So depending on how long you want to make it. And if you're going to make it really long, like you're going to do like a necklace or a keychain or something like that, and you're wanting to use the stem as the part to connect it, then I would just chain and do single crochets. all the way back down, or even just chain in general and use that. So I want to make it customizable for you, because I know that people are going to be using these little tiny pumpkins for lots of different things. Alternatively, if you want to put this on a necklace or a garland or something like that, you can also just thread through it with your darning needle and go through the side and then through the middle and out the other side. And that's going to give you, it'll hold it upright. Or you could take your darning needle and thread through your stem if you want it to kind of dangle from the stem. So there's a couple ideas, depending on what you're hoping to do. Real quick, I wanted to show you on the first pumpkin here, I did 4 chain of 4, and then I turned and skipped that first chain, and then I did a single crochet and then a half double crochet and then double crochet. So that's what that one looks like. And then the second pumpkin next to it is the one that I just showed you in the video, where I started with a chain of 5. So just to give you an idea of how the different chain lengths look. But now that we finished our little stem, we're going to go ahead and we're going to do a chain. And then we're just going to cut our yarn, and we're going to leave enough to do a little bit of sewing in or tying. So go ahead and pull tight on that after you cut your yarn. That chain just made it so that you made a little knot, and that's all nice and secure and not going anywhere. So the way that I would do your attaching of this is I would go ahead and I would thread this onto your darning needle. Just pick a side, any side, and go down through the center. And pop out the other end. And pull that strand through. Then go ahead and thread the other string, the other part of yarn, piece of yarn, through your darning needle. And go through wherever you would like your base to be. I'm going to do it in the center again. So push that through the center and come out the bottom. And then give those both a nice tight little tug. And I'm going to knot them down here at the bottom. Once again, this is probably unnecessary, but I always would prefer to be a little extra and more secure. So there is our little pumpkin and our little pumpkin stem. So mine is probably actually considered pretty long for the size of the pumpkin. Maybe do 3 if you would like it even shorter, because then you would only have 2 that you're going into. So, you know, a chain of 3, and then skip the first loop, and then you could do let's see, you could do a single crochet and then jump straight to a double crochet. So if you want to make it even shorter, chain 3, do a single crochet in that second stitch from your hook, and then a double crochet, and then just do the same thing I just did. So there's another option for you if you would like an even shorter stem. And you can also do multiple stems if you want to have like a few of them. You can do a few of them, really customizable. And then you can either cut this, leave it long if you want to attach it to something, or you can use your darning needle and thread them in the way that I showed you before. I'm just going to go ahead and trim them. And then boom, you have made a little pumpkin. Congratulations. I hope you enjoy your tiny pumpkin. I would love to see your tiny pumpkins and what you do with them. See where you place them or how you use them. These would be great on wreaths. They would be great for little, setups with dolls and stuff. This would be great sized actually if you wanted to make one for a kid who's playing with Barbies or things like that. This is actually like life-size pumpkin that you'd sit on your porch to a Barbie. So there's a lot of possibilities of what to do with your tiny pumpkin. But I hope you enjoyed, and please don't forget to subscribe for more and leave a comment below and let me know what you thought. All right, guys, I will see you on the next one. Bye!